Hey everyone, and welcome to this deep dive. We're tackling something today that, well, kind of affects all of us, right? Money. But don't worry, we're not going to bore you with like super complicated formulas or try to predict the stock market.
Yeah.
No. Today's all about the psychology of money, like how our brains and feelings actually, influence our money choices.
Yeah.
So you wanted to get a better handle on your finances, right?
Yeah.
Understand it all without getting lost in the jargon.
Absolutely.
Well, that's exactly why we're diving into Morgan Housel's book, The Psychology of Money. It's like a sneak peek into how your own mind works when it comes to finances.
It really
It's
here.
full of these amazing stories and insights that can totally change how you think about money. And trust me, it's way more interesting than it sounds.
Oh, it definitely is. So many people think money's all about math and numbers, but honestly, it's more about behavior.
Really?
Yeah, it's about our emotions, our biases, even our past experiences. They all play a huge role in how we handle money.
Okay, so let's break this down. One of the biggest aha moments in the book is that you don't have to be a genius to be good with money.
Right. In fact, sometimes a high IQ can actually hold you back.
Seriously.
Yeah. Housel argues that financial success is less about being a math whiz and more about mastering your own behavior.
So like being patient, disciplined, and not letting your emotions get the best of you.
Exactly. Think about it. Patience, discipline, keeping those emotions in check. That's the key.
Makes sense.
And you know what? Housel has some incredible stories to back this up. Like, he talks about Ronald Reed, a janitor, who quietly built an $8 million fortune.
Wait, hold on. A janitor. Became a multimillionaire.
Yep. You might think you need a high-paying job to be wealthy, but Ronald Reed proves that wrong. He lived simply, saved diligently, and invested consistently. And over decades, those simple habits, they made him a multimillionaire.
That's incredible. It totally changes what we think we know about wealth, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And to make it even more interesting, Housel contrasts Ronald Reed with, well, someone like Richard Fuscone, a Harvard MBA, who, despite his fancy education and successful career, ended up declaring bankruptcy.
So we've got a janitor who becomes a multimillionaire and a Harvard MBA who goes bankrupt.
Exactly. It's a powerful reminder that intelligence and a prestigious degree don't guarantee financial success.
So what's the real secret then?
Well, Reed's story is like a perfect example of the power of compounding over time.
Compounding.
Yeah, but it's not just about money. It applies to knowledge, relationships, habits too. Small, consistent actions, when you repeat them over time, lead to huge results. Imagine a snowball. It starts small, but as it rolls, it picks up more snow, gets bigger and bigger.
So even small things like saving a few dollars each day or reading a few pages of a book, they can turn into something huge over time.
You got it. And it reminds us that you don't need to change everything overnight to see results. Small, consistent steps in the right direction can have incredible outcomes.
This is where it gets really interesting. Housel dives into something so many people miss: the roles of luck and risk in our finances.
Right.
It's like acknowledging that no matter how smart or hardworking you are, unexpected stuff can happen and you can't plan for everything.
Exactly. We often think we have more control than we actually do, especially when it comes to money. We think success is all about hard work and skill, but Housel's like, hold on a second. He uses the example of Bill Gates. Yeah, Bill Gates, brilliant guy, driven, but he also had a massive amount of luck on his side.
Like being one of the few kids with a computer back in the 60s. Talk about right place, right time.
I know, right? It makes you realize that while effort's important, sometimes things are just, well, out of our hands.
So how do we balance this? Knowing that luck plays a role, but also that we should still, take action and be responsible.
It's about focusing on what you can control. You can't control the stock market, right? But you can control how much you save, your spending habits, and your investment strategy. It's about taking calculated risks, diversifying your investments, and just being prepared for the unexpected.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like having a plan, but also being flexible enough to adapt when things don't go exactly as planned.
You got it. Exactly. It's
Yeah.
like, you got to have a plan, but also be ready to switch things up when life throws you a curveball.
Okay, so we've talked about behavior, luck, and risk. But there's this other big idea in the book that really got me thinking. It's about defining enough.
Oh, yeah.
What does enough money actually mean to you? you know? It's like
Right.
a question so many people never even stop to think about. They just keep chasing more and more, and they're never really satisfied.
It's true. Housel calls this the hedonic treadmill, you know? Like, we get used to good things, then we just want more, and we end up kind of running in place when it comes to happiness.
Like that saying, the more you have, the more you want. So how do we break free from that? Like, how do we figure out what enough means for us? So we can actually feel content instead of always wanting more.
Well, Housel argues that true wealth isn't about like having a ton of money, you know? It's about having control over your time, your choices, your life. It's about having the freedom to do what really matters to you, whether that's spending time with your family, following your passions, or even just having peace of mind.
So it's about like matching up your money goals with what you really care about and realizing that enough is different for everyone. It's not just about a specific dollar amount, right?
Exactly. And this leads to another really interesting idea from the book. Wealth is often what you don't see.
Okay, now I'm really curious. Tell me more about this invisible wealth thing.
Well, think about it. Someone driving a fancy car or wearing designer clothes, they might look wealthy, but you don't know their situation, do you? They could be in tons of debt or living paycheck to paycheck. True wealth, according to Housel, is often hidden. It's about financial security and having options, not just keeping up with appearances.
So it's about having a safety net, having the freedom to make choices without constantly stressing about money.
Precisely. It's about focusing on building that solid financial foundation instead of chasing, those fleeting displays of wealth like fancy cars or whatever.
That makes so much sense. It's like that peace of mind, knowing you've got a backup plan, and the flexibility to make decisions based on what you value, not just your bank account balance. So how do we start building this kind of invisible wealth? Where do we even begin?
Well, Housel really emphasizes having a good savings rate. It's not about depriving yourself. It's about making smart choices that help you in the long run. It's like paying yourself first before you spend on anything else. Set aside a portion of your income for your future self.
So it's about finding that balance between enjoying life now
Yeah.
and making sure you're good in the future, right? And it doesn't have to be a huge chunk of money right away. Even small, consistent savings can really add up over time.
Absolutely. And, those small, consistent savings, they can grow into significant wealth over time, thanks to the power of compounding we were talking about before. It's that snowball effect all over again. Those small bits keep building and building.
Yeah, that's a good point. And what about debt? It can feel like this big, scary monster, but maybe it doesn't have to be.
Well, debt can be a burden, no doubt about it, but the key is to manage it wisely. Housel talks a lot about avoiding lifestyle inflation traps. It's easy to get caught up in, constantly upgrading your life as you earn more, but that can actually keep you stuck in debt.
So like no keeping up with the Joneses, no buying that fancy car or bigger house just because everyone else is doing it.
Exactly. You got to make smart choices and resist that pressure to always upgrade, Focus on what truly matters to you and make sure your spending reflects that.
It's interesting how Housel emphasizes being adaptable, having a flexible mindset about money. Like our financial plans, they need to change as our lives change.
Yeah, he's big on that. There's no one right way to do personal finance, your goals and priorities. They change over time, so what you do with your money needs to adapt too.
So no blindly following some financial guru or whatever the hot investment is right now. It's about doing your research, knowing the risks, and making decisions that work for you right.
You got it. It's also important to remember that even the best laid plans, they can get messed up by things you never saw coming. That's where having a margin of safety comes in.
You mean like having an emergency fund, right?
Yeah.
Just in case something unexpected happens.
Exactly. It's like a financial cushion. It helps you deal with unexpected expenses or if things go wrong. And it's about not putting all your eggs in one basket, like relying too much on one source of income or having way too much debt.
So diversifying your income, paying down that high-interest debt, and building up that emergency fund, those are all key to creating that financial safety net, right?
You nailed it. It's about making your financial life more resilient so you can weather the storms and bounce back even stronger.
One thing I really like about Housel's approach is that he encourages us to be reasonable, not just strictly rational when it comes to money. He gets that we're humans, not robots, right? Our emotions and experiences, they're going to influence our financial decisions no matter what.
Oh, absolutely. It's
Yeah.
about finding that balance between logic and emotion. What might look good on paper might not feel right for you personally.
So even if some investment strategy could make you a lot of money, if it's keeping you up at night, it's probably not the best fit for you.
Exactly. Financial decisions should be good for you overall, not just your net worth. It's about feeling good about the choices you're making.
That makes a lot of sense. It's about having a financial plan that helps you achieve your goals and brings you peace of mind, not stress and anxiety.
And speaking of life goals, Housel talks about how our early experiences, the historical context we've lived through, they can shape how we handle money, our upbringing, how our family treated money, even the economic climate when we were growing up. They can all influence our beliefs and habits around finances. Absolutely. For example, someone who's been through like really bad inflation, they might be more likely to hoard assets or invest in gold, while someone who grew up during a booming economy might be more comfortable taking risks.
It's amazing how those early experiences can stick with us, you know, and influence our choices even years later.
Yeah, it is fascinating, isn't it? It really is like our past is always there, even when we're thinking about money.
So we really got to be aware of those beliefs we picked up, right? And ask ourselves if they're still working for us. Maybe they are, but maybe they're actually holding us back from making good financial choices.
Exactly. It's about being aware of how our past might be shaping our money decisions now and making changes if we need to. Like, we got to be honest with ourselves, See if those old beliefs are helping us or hurting us.
It's so refreshing to hear a financial expert actually talk about, personal history and emotions and not just like spreadsheets and what the market's doing. It just feels like a much more human approach to money. You know what I mean?
I totally agree. It's a welcome change from like that traditional view of finance that can feel so cold and impersonal. It brings that human element back into the conversation. It's not just about numbers, it's about people, their stories, and how they experience money.
And that's what makes The Psychology of Money such a great read. It challenges all those old ideas, makes you think about your own experiences, and helps you take control of your finances in a way that feels, I don't know, more real and sustainable. It's not about following a bunch of rules. It's about understanding yourself and making choices that match what you value.
It definitely is. It's a book that speaks to like everyone because it's about those basic truths of human nature and our complicated relationship with money. And honestly, it's a book you can come back to again and again as your financial situation and life changes.
Absolutely. The things you learn in this book, they don't really get old. They give you insights that are helpful no matter what's happening in the market or the economy. It's amazing how Housel takes these complex psychological concepts and makes them so clear and easy to understand. Anyone can get it, even if they're not a financial expert.
Yeah, his writing style is really engaging and relatable. He even throws in some humor, which makes it a fun read. Even if you don't normally like personal finance books, I think you'd find this one pretty insightful and entertaining.
Totally agree. He's got this knack for telling stories and using real-world examples that just make his points really clear. They stick with you even after you finish the book.
Exactly. And he doesn't use a lot of jargon or complicated financial terms. It's more like you're having a conversation with a really smart friend who gives great advice.
Well, I think we've covered a lot today, but it feels like we've only just scratched the surface of this topic. There's so much more to explore.
Oh, yeah, definitely. This book is packed with interesting insights and practical advice.
So to recap, we talked about how your behavior matters more than your intelligence when it comes to money. The role of luck and risk, which we often forget about. The power of compounding and how it's not just about money and how important it is to figure out what enough means for you personally.
And we talked about how true wealth isn't always what you see. It's more about having financial freedom and flexibility, feeling secure, and having peace of mind. Those things are often more valuable than, like, showing off how much money you have.
I think one of the biggest takeaways here, and I hope you're feeling this too, is that understanding how you think and feel about money, that's the key. It's about knowing your biases, understanding how your past experiences might be affecting you now, and making choices that align with what you value and what you want to achieve in the long run.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And remember, be kind to yourself along the way. We're all human, and we're all going to make mistakes with money at some point.
That's so true. It's about learning from those mistakes, making adjustments, and realizing that being good with money, it's a journey, not a destination. Okay, as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with this one thought from Morgan Housel that really hit home for me. He says, the hardest financial skill is getting the goalpost to stop moving.
That is so powerful, isn't it? It really gets at that human tendency to always want more, We always want to raise the bar, even when we've already achieved so much.
It's about realizing that being happy and content, it's not about having some magic number in your bank account. It's about feeling good about your life and living in line with your values.
Exactly. It's about finding that feeling of being satisfied with what you have while still working towards improving your financial situation in a way that feels right for you.
Well said. And I think that's a great place to end things. If you want to learn more about this fascinating world of financial psychology, we definitely recommend checking out Morgan Housel's book, The Psychology of Money. You can find a link to it in the show notes.
And as you go about your day, think about the financial choices you've made lately. Were they based on logic, emotion, maybe a little bit of both? What are some small, positive changes you can start making today that will make a big difference down the road?
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the psychology of money. We hope you found it as insightful and helpful as we did. Until next time, remember to keep those expectations in check, and remember that being good with money is about so much more than just the numbers.